No one touches my daughter without my say. Least of all, you. Zoe Carter froze, knees pressed into the bath mat, hands still midair. She had just rinsed the last soap bubbles from little Sophia's curly hair. The 2-year-old giggled, patting the water with her chubby palms, oblivious to the voice that had just cut through the air like a blade. Gregory Hartman. His voice was unmistakable, deep, sharp, and furious. It slammed into Maya's chest, stealing her breath. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not for another 3 hours. She'd only brought Sophia upstairs to help her cool off. The toddler had been cranky, skin warm to the touch, clearly running a slight fever. The nanny had clocked out early, the house was quiet, and Maya couldn't ignore the child's discomfort. So she'd done what any human heart would, drawn a safe, lukewarm bath, sat beside her, humming lullabies as the child relaxed. And now? This. She heard the pounding footsteps on the staircase. Maya jumped to her feet, wrapping a towel swiftly around Sophia's slippery body, holding her close. "Mr. Hartman, please," she started, her voice tight, heart hammering, but he was already there. Framed in the bathroom doorway like a brewing storm in designer shoes, eyes blazing, jaw locked. "What the hell is going on here?" he barked. Sophia startled in Maya's arms, letting out a confused whimper. The towel slipped a little. Maya instinctively clutched the girl tighter. "She was warm," Maya said, her voice shaking but controlled. "I gave her a bath to help bring the fever down." "You bathed her?" His voice cracked with outrage. "Are you out of your mind?" "She was overheating, the nanny was gone, I didn't want her to faint or—" "She's not your responsibility," he stormed forward. "She's my daughter, not your project. Give her to me. Now." He pulled the child from her arms with a jolt. Sophia burst into tears, reaching out blindly, her cries sharp and terrified. "Daddy," she hiccuped, trying to cling to his jacket, water running down her tiny fingers. Gregory cradled her roughly, still glaring at Maya. "You don't get to decide what's best for her," he growled. "You're here to clean, that's it, nothing more." Maya didn't flinch. She needed comfort, she said quietly. She needed someone. He stared at her like she'd just shattered something sacred. "Pack your things. You're finished here." Maya looked at the trembling child in his arms. Sophia was still crying, reaching for her. Maya swallowed hard. "Please," she whispered, "let me calm her before I go. Let me make this easier for her." "Leave. Now." There was nothing more to say. Maya lowered her eyes, nodded once, and walked out. Gregory didn't move. He stood frozen in the steam-filled bathroom, holding his daughter, still hearing the echo of her sobs and the soft splash of retreating water. Downstairs, Maya packed quietly. No tears, no defense, no anger. Just careful movements. She folded her blue cotton dress, damp from where Sophia had leaned on her shoulder, and placed it gently in her bag. At the front door, Mark, the longtime house manager, waited. "You all right?" he asked softly. Maya managed a tired smile. "I just wanted her to feel better." Mark gave her a long look. "That's why he's upset. You did something he couldn't." Back upstairs, Gregory sat rigid in his study armchair. Sophia, bundled in a dry blanket, lay curled in his lap, hiccuping in her sleep. She hadn't clung to him the way she used to. No tight hugs, no little fists around his collar. She'd cried for Maya. Not since his wife Maria passed nearly 2 years ago had he heard that kind of cry, that aching, gut-deep cry. A cry that said, "I lost something. Something I wasn't ready to let go of." Mark knocked gently at the open door. "Sir," Gregory looked up. "Yes?" "Just wanted to make sure you and the little one were all right." Mark's eyes shifted to Sophia. She settled down. "She's sleeping," Gregory replied quietly. Mark stepped inside, folded his hands in front of him, and cleared his throat. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" Gregory raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead. You were wrong to send Maya away like that." Gregory's brow furrowed. "She was bathing my daughter without permission. That's not just unprofessional, it's over the line." "It might be," Mark nodded. "But sometimes lines are crossed for the right reasons." Gregory scoffed. "This isn't about intention, Mark. It's about boundaries. I don't know this woman. She doesn't know my daughter." Mark let out a slow breath. "You may not know her, but Sophia does." Gregory blinked. "What? Sir, she called that girl Mama Maya. You didn't hear it because you were shouting, but I did. Maya didn't make her say it, it just came out." He paused. "That kind of connection doesn't happen in 3 weeks unless someone's been doing something right." Gregory's chest tightened. He remembered the way Sophia had clung to Mia's shoulder, the way she'd buried her face into her neck and whispered in a voice so small, "Don't let go." He looked down at his daughter now. Her small hand rested against his wrist, fingers twitching in sleep. Her breathing was uneven, disturbed. "She's 2, Gregory murmured. "She doesn't know what she's saying." Mark shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe she knows exactly what safety feels like." There was a silence, a heavy one. "Why didn't the nanny stay with her?" Gregory asked finally. "She had a family emergency, left earlier this afternoon. Maya offered to step in. No one forced her. She just saw the child needed comfort and did something about it." Gregory sighed and leaned back. "I hired her to clean bathrooms, not to play mother." Sir," Mark said, his tone firmer now. "With all due respect, cleaning bathrooms doesn't keep a child from burning up with fever. It doesn't read her poetry. It doesn't sing her old songs from when she was still learning words. That girl did all of that quietly, without asking for anything." Gregory closed his eyes, the guilt seeping in like a slow leak. He remembered his wife's voice reading to Sophia late at night, her soft laughter echoing down the hallway. He hadn't heard that in so long. And yet somehow Maya had brought it back. Not the same voice, not the same laugh, but the same calm. Still, his instincts warred with reason. He couldn't allow anyone, especially someone he barely knew, to overtake a role he wasn't ready to surrender. He was Sophia's father. He was responsible. "You think I should have thanked her?" he asked, his tone sharper than intended. "I think," Mark replied, "you should have asked her why she was doing it before deciding what she meant by it." The older man turned and left without another word. Gregory looked down at Sophia again. Her tiny face, red from earlier crying, was pressed against his chest. Her lips parted as she murmured something in her sleep. "Mama." He froze. It could have meant Maria, it could have meant Maya, or both. He didn't know anymore. He sat in silence for a long time until the light outside began to fade and the house grew dim. He didn't call the agency, didn't report Maya, but he didn't call her back either. That night, after putting Sophia to bed, he wandered the house like a ghost, ending up in the guest bathroom where the scene had unfolded. The tub was still damp. A tiny bottle of lavender baby wash sat on the edge. A yellow duck floated quietly in leftover water. He knelt beside it like Maya had. And for the first time in years, Jonathan Greer realized something terrifying. He had no idea how to care for his daughter alone. The darkness settled like velvet over the Whitman estate. Outside, the gardens were bathed in silver moonlight, trimmed hedges casting long shadows over the stone paths. Inside, silence hung heavy, broken only by the occasional rustle of bed sheets and the faint whimper of a 2-year-old girl twisting in her sleep. Jonathan Greer stood just outside Sophia's nursery, watching her through the crack in the door. The night light, shaped like a crescent moon, glowed softly by her crib, painting her cheeks in pale orange. Her small fists clutched the edge of a worn stuffed bunny, Maria's last gift before she passed. Sophia stirred again, her tiny voice calling out in broken syllables. "Mama." The sound pierced him deeper than he could admit. Gregory stepped inside and knelt beside the crib. "I'm here, sweetheart," he whispered. "Daddy's here." Sophia stirred, eyes fluttering open, her brow furrowed. "Maya," Gregory froze. "No, baby, it's Daddy." The girl's eyes searched his face but didn't settle. She whimpered and turned away, curling further into herself. "I want Maya." Gregory sat there, stunned. It wasn't just the name. It was the tone, the ache. That wasn't a child pairing a familiar word. It was longing. He stood and paced the room, hands buried in his pockets, thoughts spiraling. He had fired Maya less than 10 hours ago. The agency hadn't even returned his email yet. And yet, he couldn't shake the image of her gently lowering Sophia into the bath, the careful way she checked the water, the way Sophia relaxed in her arms like she belonged there. At nearly midnight, Sophia began to cough, then harder. Her body twisted under the sheets, and she let out a sudden cry, sharp, panicked, hoarse. Gregory rushed back to the crib and scooped her up. Her forehead was burning again. "No, no, no," he murmured, feeling her clammy skin. "Not again." He tried the medicine dropper. She turned away. He offered water. She pushed it out with a sob. Panic clawed at him. He called the pediatrician's emergency line. Voicemail. He dialed the on-call nurse. Voicemail again. He held Sophia closer, her body racked with hiccuping cries, and felt the familiar fear rise in his throat. He didn't know what to do. Not really. He never had to. Maria had always been there. Then the nannies, then brief scheduled interactions with no surprises. But now, when it mattered, he was alone and failing. Sophia cried out again. Her little arms reached out, not for him, but toward the door. Maya, he hesitated. Then he ran down the stairs, past the quiet study, through the kitchen, and out the side door. He didn't even grab his coat. The night was cold and sharp, but he didn't feel it. He only had one address for Zoe Carter, written in her file from the agency. It was on the other side of town, 30 minutes by car. He didn't care. He drove like a man possessed. The apartment building was old, tired-looking. A flickering light buzzed above the entrance. He didn't know what unit she was in. He knocked on the side door. Nothing. He called out, "Maya, Maya, please, it's Jonathan Greer." A window on the second floor cracked open. Her voice drifted down, cautious. "Mr. Whitman," he looked up breathless. "It's Sophia. She's sick again. I don't know what to do, please." There was a pause. Then the window shut. 2 minutes later, Maya opened the front door wearing a hoodie and jeans, a tote bag slung over her shoulder. Her eyes scanned his face. "Where is she?" "In the car." They didn't speak during the drive. Maya sat quietly, hands folded in her lap, her face calm but unreadable. When they arrived, she didn't wait for direction. She moved like someone who already knew the house, up the stairs, down the hallway, into Sophia's room. "Hi, baby girl," she whispered, lifting Sophia from Gregory's arms. Sophia whimpered once, then collapsed against Maya's chest. Her sobbing slowed, her body stilled. Gregory stood there stunned. Maya checked the child's temperature with the back of her hand, felt behind the ears, unzipped the footy pajamas slightly. "She's warm, but not dangerously. Her breathing is shallow. You tried the medicine?" She wouldn't take it. "She will now," Maya said, and she did. With a few soft hums and quiet words, Maya fed her the dose in small sips. She used a damp cloth to wipe her forehead and gently ran her fingers through the child's curls. "I'll stay with her until she sleeps," Maya said without looking up. Gregory wanted to say something. Apologize, maybe, explain. But the words didn't come, so he left the room. Back downstairs, he poured himself a drink and sat in the kitchen. The silence now tinged with something different. Not guilt, not yet, but the beginning of understanding. An hour passed before Maya came down. She looked tired but steady. "She's asleep," she said. "Thank you," he replied, and it came out quieter than he expected. "I didn't do it for you." "I know, I just didn't want her to feel scared." Gregory nodded. "You didn't overstep." "I did," Maya raised an eyebrow. "I panicked," he continued. "I thought I was protecting her, but all I did was take her away from the one person who was actually helping." She didn't say anything. "Would you?" He hesitated. "Would you stay for tonight?" Maya studied him for a moment, then she nodded. "For Sophia," she said, "not for you." He accepted that. That night, as Maya slept in the guest room and Sophia finally rested peacefully, Gregory sat awake in his study, a single sentence echoing in his mind. "You saved her tonight." And he hadn't meant the fever. Morning light streamed through the tall windows of the Whitman estate, landing gently on the polished hardwood floors and casting golden beams across the quiet house. For once, the silence didn't feel cold. It felt earned. Jonathan Greer stood by the kitchen counter, nursing a half-finished mug of coffee. He hadn't slept much, but there was no bitterness in the fatigue. His thoughts were heavy, but clear. Upstairs, he could hear the muffled creak of the guest room door and the soft footsteps that followed. Maya came down the stairs slowly, her hoodie from the night before replaced with a simple button-up shirt and clean jeans. Her eyes were tired but steady. "Morning," Gregory offered. "Good morning," she replied quietly. "How is she?" "She slept through the night," Maya said. "Temperature's down, still a little weak. But I'll make her something light." "You don't have to." "I want to, Ma," said, moving past him and toward the fridge. Gregory watched her open cabinets, gather ingredients, and move with quiet efficiency like she belonged here. Not as an employee, but as something else. Someone this house had been missing. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. Maya didn't look up. "You already said that last night. I need to say it again. I was wrong. I judged you. I saw a stranger holding my daughter and thought the worst. I'm ashamed of that." Maya paused, one hand resting on the counter. "I understand fear," she said, "but fear doesn't excuse disrespect." He nodded slowly. "You're right." They fell into silence again, the kind that held weight but not hostility. Gregory poured another cup of coffee and reached for a second mug. "Do you take it black?" he asked. "Little cream, no sugar." He handed it to her, their fingers brushing briefly. A simple gesture, but in it lived something unspoken, a recognition. They sat at the breakfast table across from one another. For a while, they didn't speak. The clink of spoons and the low hum of the refrigerator were the only sounds between them. Gregory glanced up. "Why do you do this?" Maya looked at him. "Do what?" "Take care of children. You mentioned poetry, lullabies. That's not in your job description." She set down her mug. Her eyes softened. "I studied pediatric nursing before I dropped out. My little brother had a rare neurological disorder. He needed care around the clock. My mom worked 2 jobs. I became his nurse by default." Gregory leaned in slightly, listening. "He died 3 years ago," Maya continued. "After that, I couldn't go back to school. I couldn't look at hospital walls without feeling like I'd failed him." He said nothing, allowing the weight of her words to settle. "So I took on jobs that let me be close to children, cleaning, babysitting, part-time care. I don't have degrees, but I have heart and instincts." Gregory nodded slowly. "You have more than that. You have presence. Sophia responds to you like she did with Maria. That's not easy to admit." Maya's eyes flickered at the mention of his late wife. "Sophia talks about her sometimes, mostly in her sleep." He exhaled. "She hasn't said her name to me in over a year. That's grief," Maya said. "It finds comfort where it can." Gregory looked down at his coffee. "She calls you Mama Maya." Maya smiled faintly. "I never told her to." "I know." He looked up again. "Would you consider staying?" Maya's brow furrowed. "I'm not sure that's wise." "Why not?" "Because this isn't just about Sophia," she said, voice even. "It's about you learning to trust people again, and not just when you're desperate." He didn't reply at first, then he nodded. "You're right again, but I want to try. I want to learn. And if you're willing, I'd like that to start with you." She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then finally she spoke. "On one condition." "Name it." "No more yelling. If I stay, it's as a caregiver, not a scapegoat. And I expect to be treated like someone who matters." "You already are," Gregory said softly. "Words are easy," Maya replied. "Let's see how you do with actions." Just then, a soft whimper echoed from upstairs. Both of them turned their heads instinctively. "Sophia," Maya said, already rising. Gregory stood too. "Let's go." They walked up the stairs together, no longer strangers, no longer separated by fear or misunderstanding. In the nursery, Sophia sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes. Her curls were a wild halo around her face. "Daddy," she said groggily. "Maya, we're both here, sweetheart," Gregory said, kneeling beside her crib. Maya leaned in with a warm smile. "You ready for some applesauce and cartoons?" Sophia beamed. "Yes." And for the first time in a long while, the Hartman house felt like something more than a monument of wealth and silence. It felt like home. The following days unfolded like the first breeze of spring after a long, hard winter. There was warmth, unfamiliar but welcome. Gregory noticed the difference almost immediately. Sophia smiled more, ate better, and clung to him a little less. The house, once filled with cold silence and routine footsteps, now echoed with laughter, stories, and soft lullabies sung in the late afternoons. Maya didn't just stay, she became part of the rhythm. In the mornings, she'd prepare breakfast, while Sophia toddled around in her pajamas, humming whatever song Maya had sung the night before. During naps, she read aloud from children's books and Langston Hughes poems when Gregory wasn't around. And in the evenings, when the house dimmed and the sky grew purple over Palo Alto, Maya would sit beside Sophia's crib until the child drifted to sleep. Her small hand curled around 2 fingers of Maya's. But not everyone embraced the changes easily. One evening, Gregory stood at the kitchen sink, rinsing a wine glass. When Mark stepped in, his expression unusually tight. "Sir, a word?" Gregory nodded. "Of course." "Something wrong?" Mark hesitated, then lowered his voice. "The agency called. They received an anonymous report." Gregory turned fully. "About what?" "About Maya, that she's overstepping, acting outside her role, suggesting she's manipulating her way into Sophia's life." Gregory's grip on the glass tightened. "That's absurd." "I agree," Mark said. "But you should know, gossip travels fast in this town, especially among the help." Gregory ran a hand through his hair, frustration simmering. "She saved my daughter twice. I don't care what whisperers think." Mark studied him. "Some of the other staff, Marcia, the upstairs maid, she's been cold toward Maya, Says it's inappropriate the way she's bonded with the child. Inappropriate? Gregory barked, his voice rising. Since when is kindness inappropriate? Since jealousy made it look like something else, Mark replied calmly. Sir, people see a young black woman getting close to a powerful man's child, and they make assumptions. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Gregory hated how true they sounded. He exhaled sharply. I won't let gossip shape how I raise my daughter or who I trust. Mark gave a respectful nod. I figured you'd say that. Just wanted you to hear it from me before it spreads further. Later that night, Gregory walked the halls of his house with Sophia sleeping upstairs and Maya in the kitchen, quietly wiping down the counters. He watched her for a moment, unnoticed. She moved with a quiet grace, every motion thoughtful. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't manipulating. She was simply present. He stepped inside. Can we talk? Maya turned. Of course. There's been some talk, a complaint to the agency, anonymous. He watched her expression closely. Her shoulders stiffened, but her eyes remained steady. About me? Yes, accusing you of inappropriate behavior, of using your position to get close to my daughter. She didn't flinch. And you? I don't believe it for a second. Her posture relaxed just slightly. Thank you. But Gregory continued, I know this will hurt you. It's unfair. It's cowardly, but it's also real. You deserve to know. Maya leaned back against the counter, arms folded. This isn't the first time, Mr. Whitman. People have made assumptions about me my whole life. Where I belong, what I'm doing, what I want. Her voice was calm, but beneath it lived years of exhaustion. I've learned not to fight them. Just keep showing up. Let the truth live in my actions. He stepped closer. That's what I see. And more importantly, that's what Sophia sees. There was a beat of silence between them. I can't protect you from everything, he admitted. But I won't let you be pushed out because people are afraid of something they don't understand. Maya looked up, eyes holding his. Then don't treat me like a secret. If I'm here to stay, then let me be seen. Gregory nodded. You're right. I've been hiding behind my own image, protecting my pride more than my family. She smiled faintly. It's not pride that raised your daughter tonight. He chuckled softly. Tche? The following day, Gregory called a meeting with the household staff. In the formal sitting room, Marcia sat with arms crossed, eyes tight. A few others gathered awkwardly. Maya stood to the side, hands clasped. Gregory stood at the center. I want to be clear, he said. Zoe Carter is no longer just the housemaid. She is a caregiver to my daughter and someone I trust implicitly. She has full permission to act in the interest of Sophia's well-being. Any staff who feels uncomfortable with this arrangement is welcome to resign today. Silence. Then Mark spoke up. I support that decision. Gregory looked around. Is that understood? Murmured acknowledgments followed. Marcia said nothing. After the room cleared, Maya remained. She walked over to Gregory, her face unreadable. That was brave. He gave her a small smile. That was overdue. And for the first time, Maya allowed herself to feel something close to safe. Not because of the title, not because of the protection, but because someone had finally said out loud what she'd always hoped someone would. You belong here. Days passed, then a week. The scandalous murmurs died down, smothered by Gregory's firm stance and Mark's steady presence. Maya continued her work, but now without the weight of suspicion in every glance. The house adapted, and for the first time since Maria's passing, peace had returned to the Whitman home. Not silence, but a true peace, gentle and lived in. Still, beneath that calm, something stirred. It began with a phone call. Gregory was in his home office reviewing contracts when his cell phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. The name made his gut tighten. Eleanor Whitman. Mother, he answered. Mother Gregory. Eleanor's voice was sharp, practiced, and icy as ever. I've been hearing strange things. He pinched the bridge of his nose. From whom? That's not important. Smat. What matters is that I heard them about a young maid who's now apparently playing stepmother to my granddaughter. She's not. You let a housekeeper bathe Sophia, feed her, put her to bed? Gregory, have you lost your mind? Gregory's jaw clenched. Sophia is healthy, happy, something she hasn't been in months. Gregory, listen to me, Eleanor cut in. The board at Hartman Financial is already skittish. They see a grieving widower turning his mansion into a nursery for the help, and you'll lose their confidence, if not your seat. This has nothing to do with the company. It has everything to do with perception. Appearances matter. Legacy matters. Your father built? My father's gone, Gregory snapped, his voice sharp, and I'm raising my daughter how I see fit. A beat of silence on the line. Then Eleanor's tone cooled. You always did mistake rebellion for strength. He ended the call. Later that evening, Maya found him on the back terrace, staring out at the garden, whiskey untouched beside him. Everything all right? She asked gently. He looked at her, his eyes tired. My mother called. She knows about you. Maya didn't flinch, and she thinks you're a threat to my reputation, to the company. Maya raised an eyebrow. Is that what I am? No, he said quickly, but it's what people like her see, what they've always seen. She sat beside him, folding her hands in her lap. I can leave. Gregory turned to her sharply. Don't. I'm not saying I want to, but I will if it makes things easier for Sophia. I won't be the reason she's caught in someone else's war. He looked at her, really looked. You are the reason she sleeps through the night, eats with a smile, laughs again. That is not something I will ever ask to leave. Maya nodded, her voice quieter. Then we face this. But neither of them could predict what would come next. 2 days later, a sleek black car pulled up to the Hartman estate. The butler announced her before she entered. Mrs. Eleanor Whitman to see you, sir. Gregory's face hardened. Let her in. She entered like a winter breeze, cloaked in pearls, tailored wool, her silver hair perfectly set. Eleanor Whitman was not a woman easily shaken. Her presence alone could silence a room. She cast her eyes toward Maya, who stood by the staircase. You must be the girl, she said. Every syllable dipped in disdain. Maya didn't move. And you must be the woman who taught your son to trust fear over kindness. Gregory blinked. Eleanor's lips thinned. I'd like a moment alone with my son. Maya looked at Gregory. He nodded. She walked away, not retreating, just removing herself from the storm. What is this really about, Mother? Gregory asked. I came to see with my own eyes if the rumors were true, and I see a man who's lonely, who's found a nursemaid to patch the holes in his heart. He stood, his voice low and firm. She's more than that. She's saved Sophia more times than any doctor. She's brought warmth back into this house. And what will people think, Gregory? Eleanor demanded. What will the board say? A billionaire widower replacing his late wife with a girl from the laundry room? I'm not replacing Maria, he said, his voice cracking for the first time. I'm trying to raise our daughter in a home that feels alive again. Eleanor studied him. This is about more than Maya. It's about image, legacy, future. I don't care about legacy if it comes at the cost of my child's happiness, Gregory said. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Eleanor spoke, her voice softer. She reminds me of someone, she said, that Maya girl. Gregory tilted his head. Me. When I was young, before I learned the cost of softness. Then, with nothing more, she turned and walked out. Maya returned to the room a minute later. Is it done? For now, Gregory said, but she won't be the last to question this. Then let them, Maya said. We know who we are, and Sophia knows too. He looked at her and for the first time since Maria's death, felt not the shadow of what he'd lost, but the flicker of what he might be building. Not a replacement, a beginning. It was nearly dusk when Gregory found himself standing in the hallway on the second floor, just outside the room that had remained untouched since Maria passed. Her study, her sanctuary, the oak door had always been slightly ajar, and yet he hadn't walked through it in over a year. But tonight, something tugged at him, a whisper in the walls, a shift in the air. Maya had taken Sophia to the park with Mark, giving Gregory a rare moment of silence. No toddler laughter, no agency emails, no phone calls from his mother, just the house and his thoughts. And Maria. He stepped inside. The scent hit him first, lavender and old books. A faint note of her perfume still clung to the velvet curtain. The room was dim, with soft light filtering through the sheer drapes. Her desk remained neatly arranged, a collection of photos, trinkets, and handwritten notes frozen in time. A half-filled journal sat beside a fountain pen. Gregory approached the far wall where Maria's favorite portrait hung, a painting of their small family. Himself, Maria, and a baby Sophia swaddled in white. It had been painted as a gift for their 5th anniversary. In it, Maria looked serene, powerful, timeless. Gregory reached out and touched the frame. His throat tightened. I'm trying, he whispered. Behind him, the floor creaked. He turned. Maya stood in the doorway holding a small stuffed rabbit in one hand. Sophia dropped this in the car, she said softly. He gave a faint smile. She must have hugged it so hard the seams are starting to wear. Maya stepped inside, hesitating for just a moment. Her eyes scanned the room, settling on the portrait. "She's beautiful," she said. "She was," Gregory replied, his voice distant. "She was everything." Maya approached the desk carefully, setting the rabbit down. "It's a lovely space." "It was hers," he said. "She painted in here, read, wrote poetry. It was the only room in the house that felt like her." Maya walked slowly, fingers grazing the edge of the bookshelves. "You kept it exactly as she left it." "I couldn't bear to touch it. I thought if I did, I'd lose what little of her was left." Maya turned to him. "She wouldn't have wanted this to be a tomb." Gregory nodded slowly, eyes still fixed on the portrait. "I know." There was a silence, but not an empty one. It hung between them like a thread waiting to be pulled. "I used to think moving forward meant forgetting," he said. "But lately, I wonder if it just means carrying her memory into new chapters." Maya's gaze softened. "That's all any of us can do." They stood there for a moment longer. Two people tied not by blood, not by history, but by the fragile work of building something real in the aftermath of loss. Suddenly, Sophia's voice echoed from the hallway. "Daddy, Maya." They both turned. "In here, sweetheart," Maya called. The toddler burst through the door a moment later, cheeks flushed from the breeze, curls bouncing as she ran toward Gregory. He lifted her into his arms, kissing her forehead. "I found your bunny," Maya said, holding it up. Sophia squealed and grabbed it, hugging it tight. "Thank you, Maya." Gregory looked at them, both his daughter's joy and Maya's calm, and felt the past, present, and something unnamed thread together in a single quiet truth. They were becoming a family, even if they didn't have a name for it yet. That night, after dinner, Maya tucked Sophia into bed and read her a story. Gregory lingered by the door, watching as Sophia drifted off with one hand on her bunny and the other clutching Maya's fingers. When Maya exited the room, Gregory was waiting in the hallway. "Would you come sit with me in the study?" he asked. She nodded. They sat across from each other, the fire crackling in the background. He poured 2 glasses of wine and handed her one. "I've been thinking about what you said about not being a secret." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Yes? I've decided to invite some close friends over for dinner this weekend. Just a few people who matter to me, and I want them to meet you as Sophia's caregiver. Yes, but also as someone who's become important to our lives." Maya blinked. "Are you sure? You don't owe me that." "I do," he said. "You deserve to be seen, not because of what people say, but because of what you are." Her voice was soft. "And what am I, Gregory?" He didn't answer right away. Then, with a vulnerability he rarely allowed, he said, "You're the calm I didn't know I needed. The voice Sophia listens to, the woman who walks into a room and makes it feel less lonely." Maya looked away, her eyes misting slightly. "I'm not perfect," he added, "and I'm not ready for everything, but I am ready to stop hiding behind grief." Maya took a slow sip of wine, then smiled. "Then let's see where this chapter takes us." That night, the house didn't feel haunted. It felt hopeful. And as the wind rustled the trees outside and laughter rose faintly from Sophia's dreams, Gregory finally let go. Not of Maria, but of the fear that had kept him from living again. The morning of the dinner party arrived with a hush of anticipation in the air. The Hartman estate buzzed softly with preparation, silverware clinking in the kitchen, fresh linens laid out on the long oak dining table, the faint scent of gardenia and lemon polish lingering in every room. Sophia twirled in her sky-blue dress in the foyer, giggling at her reflection in the mirror. Maya knelt beside her, gently straightening the bow at the back. "You look like a storybook princess," she whispered. Sophia beamed. "Will there be cake?" "I believe Mr. Hartman ordered 3 kinds," Maya grinned. Upstairs, Gregory stood before his closet, staring at the sea of tailored suits. He finally chose a navy one. Maria used to say, brought out the kindness in his eyes. As he tied his cufflinks, his gaze caught the old photograph on the dresser. Maria holding infant Sophia. For the first time in months, he smiled at the image instead of aching. By late afternoon, the first guests arrived. There were only a handful. Gregory's trusted legal advisor, Henry Burke, and his wife, childhood friend turned investment partner, Elaine Tran, and a family friend from the art world, Marianne Dawes. The kind of people who had always seen Gregory as guarded, stable, and untouchable. Maya moved through the house with quiet grace, ensuring glasses were full and coats were stowed, always a step ahead, but never intrusive. She wore a deep green dress, simple, elegant, and unmistakably her. It didn't take long for curious glances to turn into subtle questions. "So, Gregory," Henry said with a half-smile during cocktails, "is that your new nanny?" "No," Gregory said simply. "That's Zoe Carter. She's part of our lives now." Elaine raised an eyebrow. "In what way?" Gregory looked over at Maya, who was crouching to tie Sophia's shoe with a tenderness that defied explanation. "In the way that matters," he said. "She's someone we trust, someone Sophia adores, someone who's brought light back into this house." The room went quiet for a beat. Then Marianne nodded. "She has a presence," she said. "There's something timeless about her." Dinner was served just after sunset. The long table flickered with candlelight, fine crystal glinting in the warmth. Maya sat beside Sophia, guiding her with gentle hands as the toddler poked curiously at the roasted carrots and salmon on her plate. Conversations floated. Markets, gallery openings, politics. But every now and then, eyes drifted toward Maya. Not in judgment, but curiosity. Elaine turned to her halfway through the meal. "Maya, Gregory tells us you have a background in care work." Maya nodded, swallowing before speaking. "I studied pediatric nursing. Had to stop before I finished. Life doesn't always follow the path you plan." Elaine smiled. "That's true. What made you stay in caregiving?" Marianne asked. Maya hesitated, then glanced at Sophia. "Because children remind us what's good in the world, and they notice things adults forget." Gregory watched as heads nodded. Even Henry seemed to soften. After dessert, yes, there was cake, 3 kinds. Sophia fell asleep on the living room couch. Bunny clutched tightly in her arms. Maya scooped her up without a word, carrying her up the stairs while the guests lingered, sipping after-dinner drinks. Henry approached Gregory near the fireplace. "You've changed," he said. "There's something steadier about you." Gregory nodded. "I stopped pretending grief was strength." Elaine joined them. "She's more than a nanny, isn't she?" Gregory met her eyes. "She's the first person who's made this house feel alive again." "She's got fire," Elaine said. "Keep her close." Later that night, after the guests had gone and the last glass had been washed, Maya came down the stairs barefoot, hair tied back loosely, her dress exchanged for a cotton shirt and leggings. She found Gregory in the study, flipping through a book, but clearly not reading. "They liked you," he said, closing the book. Maya gave a small shrug. "Some of them," he smiled. "All of them." She moved to the window, looking out at the garden under moonlight. "I kept thinking about how this could have gone. How easy it would have been for one wrong look, one whisper to unravel everything." Gregory stood and crossed the room to her. "But it didn't." "No," she said, "but it still could." Maya turned to him. "I don't want to be the reason you have to keep explaining yourself." You're not," he said gently. "You're the reason I don't care who asks." They stood close now, the quiet between them heavy with unspoken things. "I'm not trying to take Maria's place," she said softly. "I know," he replied, "but maybe you found your own." She looked up at him, and in his eyes there was no confusion, only clarity. A man no longer running from pain, but walking towards something real. From upstairs, Sophia's sleepy voice called out, "Maya." She smiled, stepping back. "She still wakes once around this hour." Gregory nodded. "Go to her." And as she climbed the stairs, he whispered to himself what he hadn't yet said aloud. "Stay with us." He wasn't sure if he meant the night or forever. But either way, the seed had been planted, and it had already begun to grow. The rain came without warning. By noon the following day, thick gray clouds had settled over the estate, casting long shadows through the windows and dulling the once vibrant garden into muted tones. Inside, the house was quieter than usual. Sophia napped upstairs, her bunny tucked beneath her chin, while Maya sat in the library, her eyes drifting across the pages of a book she wasn't really reading. She heard it before she saw it, a heavy knock on the front door. Not the polite kind, not expected. Maya stood slowly, heart tightening. Gregory was at a board meeting in San Francisco. Mark had taken the afternoon off. She was alone in the house with Sophia. She opened the door cautiously. Standing in the rain, umbrella in one hand and a forced smile stretched across her perfectly powdered face, was Eleanor Whitman. "Maya?" she said as though greeting a flight attendant, not the woman raising her granddaughter. "Mrs. Whitman," Maya said, straightening. May I come in? She asked as if it were a formality. Maya hesitated, then stepped aside. Eleanor walked in like she owned the walls, her heels tapping softly against the marble floor. She removed her gloves slowly, glancing around as though inspecting a painting for forgery. She's asleep? She asked, her voice smooth and cool. Yes, Maya replied. Sophia's resting. Eleanor nodded, then turned, her gaze sharp now. Let's speak candidly. Maya's spine straightened. I always do. Eleanor folded her umbrella and set it against the wall. You've integrated yourself quickly. The house, my son, my granddaughter, and now apparently my son's circle of influence. I've done my job, Maya said evenly. Nothing more, nothing less. You've done more, Eleanor replied. Much more, and that's precisely the problem. Maya met her gaze without blinking. Is it the care I give Sophia that concerns you? Or the fact that Gregory no longer flinches every time her name is mentioned? Eleanor's jaw tightened. You're clever. I'm careful, Maya said, because I have to be. You think this ends with an elegant dinner and a few softened hearts? Eleanor said, stepping forward. You think legacy bends for kindness? My son is a public figure. His life belongs to shareholders, not sentiment. I'm not here for legacy, Maya said. I'm here for Sophia. Eleanor studied her closely. You really believe that's enough? I know it is. There was a long silence. Then, in a voice as sharp as glass, Eleanor said, You will never be part of this family. Maya inhaled slowly. That's not your decision anymore. It's not yours either. No, Maya said. It's Sophia's and Gregory's, and they've already chosen. Eleanor narrowed her eyes, the veneer cracking just slightly. Then the sound of small feet echoed from the stairs. Maya turned instantly. Sophia stood in her nightgown, bunny in hand, rubbing one eye. Maya! Maya knelt down, arms open. Hey, sweet pea, did the thunder wake you? The little girl nodded, eyes scanning the room. Grandma? Eleanor's posture softened, if only slightly. Hello, darling. Sophia walked over, still half asleep. Eleanor reached out, but Sophia stopped short and turned back to Maya, reaching for her instead. Maya picked her up, wrapping the child gently in her arms. I want Maya, Sophia mumbled. Eleanor stepped back. I'll see myself out, she said coolly. Maya didn't reply. Only when the door clicked shut behind Eleanor did she exhale. Later that evening, Gregory returned. Maya met him in the hallway, holding Sophia's favorite blanket in her hands. Your mother came by, she said quietly. Gregory froze. She what? She didn't stay long. He could see it in her eyes. The tension, the way her fingers gripped the blanket too tightly. I'm sorry, he said. I never gave her the right to treat you that way. She made her position clear, Maya replied. Gregory stepped closer. And what about your position? Maya looked up at him. I'm still here. His chest rose with a slow breath. Then, so am I. They stood there, a storm still rolling across the skies outside, but something inside shifting firmer, steadier. The next day, Gregory made a call. I need to make a public statement, he told his PR team. I want to introduce Maya officially. As part of my household, as someone integral to Sophia's care, I won't hide her. The advisor hesitated. Gregory, this will stir the press. You know that. I do, he said, and I'm ready for it. When the announcement went out, a simple press release, devoid of drama but full of quiet pride, Eleanor's circle buzzed. The media speculated, blogs hinted. But in the Whitman home, something remarkable happened. Nothing changed. Sophia still woke, calling for Maya. The staff still deferred to her guidance. Gregory still smiled when she entered the room because some homes aren't shaken by storms. Some are built in their wake. 3 days after Gregory's public statement, the world responded the way the world always does. Some with warmth, others with fury. The press latched on to every word, dissecting his motives, analyzing Maya's past, even questioning the nature of their relationship with a sly cruelty that made Maya's stomach churn. Headlines range from Billionaire finds love in unlikely place to Jonathan Greer's new nanny or new flame. Accompanied by grainy photos of her holding Sophia in the garden or stepping into the house, sometimes cropped to remove the child altogether. At first, Maya tried to ignore it. She buried herself in her daily routine, focusing on Sophia, whose innocence remained blissfully untouched by the storm outside. But the whispers found their way in. On a grocery run, a cashier raised an eyebrow. A stranger took a photo without asking. Even the neighbors, those few who actually interacted, began to speak more carefully, cautiously, as if waiting for the other shoe to drop. Gregory noticed it too. "They're vultures," he muttered one morning as he set his phone down at the breakfast table. "Not one of them's asked what Sophia needs. It's all about their narratives." "She's fine," Maya said quietly, "but I'm not." Gregory looked up. Maya met his eyes. "I don't want to live in hiding, but I didn't sign up to be a tabloid target. Not for existing, not for caring." "I know." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I should have shielded you better." "It's not your job to shield me," she replied. "But it is your job to listen when I say it's starting to feel like too much." Gregory squeezed her hand. "Then we slow things down. We re-enter this house, this family. That's all that matters." That night, after Sophia went to bed, Maya sat alone in the study, flipping through Maria's old journals. Gregory had told her she could explore the room freely now. He wanted her to. And in doing so, she discovered pieces of Maria no one else spoke about. Her doubts, her dreams, her quiet fears about raising a child in the public eye. One entry stopped her cold. "Junsep Dildwit. I love Gregory. I know he's a good man. But sometimes I fear the life we've built is made of glass, beautiful but fragile. Everyone watches us, but no one sees us. I just hope when I'm gone, someone truly sees Sophia." Maya closed the journal, tears welling. She saw Sophia. Every day, every laugh, every tantrum, every moment of wonder. A soft knock came at the door. Gregory entered holding 2 cups of tea. "Thought you might want this." She took it, grateful for the warmth. "Thank you. I want to tell you something," he said, sitting across from her. "It's something I've been working on." He pulled a folder from the shelf and handed it to her. Inside was a manuscript. She blinked. "What is this?" "My book," he said, "or the beginning of it." Maya stared at the title page. "The Quiet Fire, a memoir of loss, love, and the woman who lit the way back." She looked up, stunned. "You're writing about us, about everything," he said. "Maria, Sophia, you, how grief paralyzed me. How love in its unexpected form helped me move again." Maya placed the folder gently on her lap. "Gregory, this will only invite more eyes." "I know," he said. "But this time they'll see the truth from me. Not the tabloids, not the boardroom. Me." She smiled faintly. "You're brave." "I'm tired of being afraid of shadows," he said. "I want to live in the light with you." Maya's chest swelled with something she hadn't let herself feel fully. Hope. Not the naive kind, but the kind that blooms even in fire. The next morning, Maya and Sophia baked muffins in the kitchen, the radio humming soft jazz in the background. Flour dusted the counter. Laughter filled the air. Gregory stood in the doorway watching, arms crossed, a content smile playing on his lips. Then his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think you found peace, but some of us haven't forgotten who she really is." Gregory frowned, rereading the message. His stomach knotted. He didn't show it on his face, but something inside him clicked, an old tension returning. He tucked the phone into his pocket, walked into the kitchen, and kissed Sophia on the head. "Maya," he said gently. "Can we talk later?" She looked at him, catching the shadow in his tone. "Of course." That evening, when Sophia was asleep and the house was quiet again, Gregory showed her the message. Maya read it, jaw tightening. "This isn't the first." Gregory blinked. "What?" "I've been getting notes," she said, "folded into my grocery bags, left in the mailbox. I thought they'd stop after your statement." He stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to worry. Because part of me thought maybe I deserved the scrutiny." Gregory stepped forward. "Don't say that. No one deserves to be threatened for loving a child." Maya exhaled. "Whoever's doing this, they know things. My past, my family." Gregory's eyes darkened. "We'll find them, I promise." But even as he said it, something inside him whispered a warning. The past had begun to knock, and this time, it wasn't asking for permission to enter. Gregory wasn't one to rely on instinct alone. But that night, every fiber of him screamed that something was wrong, and not just with the messages. The threats weren't from idle gossips or scandalized society matrons. They were precise, personal. Someone knew Maya's past, and someone didn't want her there. At 6 a.m. the next morning, he called in a favor. Mark, his longtime head of security, arrived at the estate by 7. He was tall, calm, the kind of man who noticed everything but rarely said much. He'd been with Gregory through hostile takeovers, legal threats, and even Maria's funeral. Now his eyes sharpened as he scanned the printout of the latest text. Untraceable number. VPN masked. Mark said after a few minutes, "Not amateur work. Whoever sent this knows how to stay hidden." Gregory nodded grimly. I need to know who. Quietly, discreetly, Mark tilted his head. And Maya? Does she want this? Gregory hesitated, then nodded. She needs protecting whether she asks for it or not. Later that day, Maya was in the garden with Sophia, helping her plant tulip bulbs in a patch of dark soil. The child squealed with delight as her tiny hands pressed the bulbs into place, humming a song only she understood. Gregory watched from the terrace, warmth flickering in his chest. Then a flash of movement caught his eye. Across the street, parked behind a black SUV, a camera lens. He stood quickly, moving down the steps. By the time he reached the sidewalk, the photographer was gone. Only tire tracks remained on the damp concrete. That night, after putting Sophia to bed, he pulled Maya aside. They're watching us now, not just the press, someone else. Maya's face paled. Gregory, I need to tell you something. He waited. My brother, he was in trouble years ago. Bad trouble, drugs, debt. I tried to help. Took a loan to get him clean. That loan came with conditions I couldn't fulfill, so I ran. Gregory stared at her, stunned. I changed my name, moved across the country. I worked quietly, no ties, until I met Sophia, until you. Gregory sat down, rubbing his forehead. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I was afraid it would make you see me differently. He looked up, eyes steady. Maya, I see the woman who saved my daughter's heart. Nothing changes that. She let out a slow breath. But now someone's found me, and they're using your name to scare me back into hiding. Gregory stood and took her hands. Then we don't hide. That week, Mark began his investigation. Quiet interviews, background checks, data forensics. 3 days later, he returned with a file. There's a name, he said. Leon Sturgis, used to run a loan shark ring out of Pittsburgh. Maya's name popped up in a court file 10 years ago. She testified anonymously against him after her brother disappeared. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. Leon, he always said he'd find me. Mark nodded. He's out now. Clean record on paper, but we've tracked his phone. He's in Los Angeles. Gregory's jaw clenched. Can we link him to the messages? Not yet, but we're close. Maya stood still, her voice barely audible. He won't stop, not until he's gotten what he wants. Gregory turned to her. Then we give him nothing, and we take away his power. She shook her head. It's not that simple. No, Gregory said, but it is that clear. The next day, Maya visited the police. Not to file charges. There wasn't enough concrete evidence, but to put her past on record. She returned home shaken, but resolute. That evening, as Gregory was working in the study, Sophia burst into the room holding a crumpled envelope. Daddy, someone put a letter in the gate box. He took it from her, heart thudding. Inside, a single sentence scrawled in red ink. She's not who she says she is. You'll lose everything. Gregory stared at it, then walked out to the terrace. Mark joined him. It's escalating, Gregory said. He's getting reckless, which means he's scared, Mark replied. He's losing control. Gregory looked back toward the house where Maya sat with Sophia, reading from a picture book. He doesn't get to win, Gregory said. Mark nodded. Then we bring him into the light. That night, Gregory drafted a second statement, this time for the public, the media, the board, everyone. It wasn't defensive, it was defiant. He wrote about love, truth, and the strength it takes to face your past. He praised Maya not as a woman in his life, but as a woman of integrity who had overcome more than anyone should have to. He ended it with a simple sentence. She is not defined by where she came from, but by who she chooses to be every day. He posted it the next morning. The reaction was electric. Headlines, commentary, debate, but more importantly, allies stepped forward. Women's groups, former clients, even employees. One handwritten letter arrived by post. Maya read it aloud, tears brimming. I was once afraid to stand still. Thank you for reminding me that sometimes staying put is the bravest thing of all. The tide was shifting, but Leon wasn't finished. That night, under the veil of darkness, someone cut the power to the Hartman estate. The house fell into shadow, and the real battle began. The silence was total. One moment, the Hartman estate had been bathed in a golden hush. Lamplight in corners, the low hum of the dishwasher, Sophia's night music playing through the baby monitor. The next, it was swallowed whole. Lights off, security systems down, no hum, no flicker, just darkness. Gregory was in the study, pen paused mid-sentence. The silence struck him first. Then came the realization, power cut. Mark, he muttered, reaching for the emergency flashlight in his desk drawer. Across the house, Maya had just finished tucking Sophia in. She paused at the sound of the baby monitor cutting off mid-lullaby. Then the lights blinked out and the hallway fell into shadow. Her heart jumped. She moved on instinct, scooping Sophia into her arms and clutching her close. From outside, the unmistakable growl of a car engine cut through the night. Gregory met Mark near the back entrance, a flashlight beam bouncing off the floorboards. "Grid's out?" Gregory asked. Mark checked his tablet. "Dead. It's not just an outage. Backup generators didn't kick in. This was deliberate." Gregory's jaw clenched. "Leon?" Maya descended the stairs, clutching Sophia close. The child stirred, sensing the tension, but Maya whispered gently to soothe her. She handed Sophia to Gregory and turned to Mark. "What do we do?" Mark moved swiftly. "I've already called LAPD. Silent alarm triggered when the main grid was compromised, but it'll take them at least 10 minutes. We need to hold tight." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the side yard. Everyone froze. Gregory handed Sophia back to Maya and whispered, "Go to the wine cellar. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or Mark." Maya didn't argue. She took Sophia and moved, every step measured, breath shallow. Mark handed Gregory a stunned baton. "I'll check the perimeter." Gregory nodded, jaw set. "Be careful." Outside, the rain had started to fall again. Steady, deliberate, Mark moved low and fast, circling the house near the garden arch. He spotted the bent fencing. A figure in a dark hoodie moved along the hedge line, flashlight swinging. "Freeze!" Mark shouted. The figure darted. Mark gave chase. Inside, Maya reached the cellar door, heart pounding. She opened the lock, stepped inside, and secured the latch from within. Sophia clung to her, tiny fingers trembling. "It's okay," Maya whispered, though her own voice betrayed her fear. "We're safe. Mommy's got you." She hadn't meant to say mommy. The word slipped out like breath, instinctive and raw. Sophia whispered, "I know." Upstairs, Gregory moved through the darkened hall, checking locks, every sense on alert. He turned the corner toward the living room and came face to face with the intruder. Leon Sturgis, older than the last time Maya had seen him, grayer, but still hard-eyed with that same smirk of someone who believed the world owed him. He held a crowbar in one hand. "Where is she?" he sneered. "You won't touch her," Gregory growled. Leon laughed. "Rich boys always think they're invincible." He swung. Gregory ducked, the crowbar grazing the doorway with a crack. He shoved Leon back, landing a punch to his ribs. Leon staggered, then lunged again. Mark burst through the side entrance, tackling Leon from behind. The three of them struggled, furniture crashing, glass breaking. Leon roared like an animal cornered, and then the sound of sirens flashing blue and red through the rain-specked windows. Leon froze. Mark yanked the crowbar away, pinning Leon to the floor just as officers burst in. "Hands up, don't move." It was over in seconds. Maya emerged from the cellar only when Gregory called her name. Her eyes found his first, bruised, bloodied lip, but standing tall. Then her gaze shifted to Leon, handcuffed and being dragged away by police. He looked at her. No rage now, just tired hate. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. Maya stepped forward. "Yes," she said softly, "because this time I didn't run." That night, the house slowly hummed back to life, the power restored. Sophia asleep again, safe in her room. Officers took statements, photographs, and left promises of protection. Gregory stood with Maya in the quiet of the study. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I think so." He gently touched her cheek. "You were brave." "I was terrified. Bravery is what you do when you're terrified." She smiled, exhausted. "He's gone now? Really gone?" Gregory reached into his jacket and pulled out the crumpled red ink letter. "We'll press charges. He won't get near us again." They sat in silence for a moment. The only sound, the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock. Then Maya said, "I called myself mommy tonight to Sophia." Gregory looked at her, eyes softening. "She didn't flinch. She didn't correct me." Maya added, "She just said I know." Gregory reached for her hand. She already knew. They both did. In the darkness, they had held the line. In the silence, they had found their voices. And now, in the quiet dawn that followed, they were beginning to build something no storm could shake. The sun rose slowly over the Hartman estate, its golden rays casting long beams through the tall windows. For the first time in weeks, the morning was quiet. Not the kind of quiet born of tension, but the gentle hush that follows a storm. Birds chirped tentatively, as if checking whether the night's danger had truly passed. In the kitchen, Maya stood barefoot, robe wrapped loosely around her, warming her hands around a mug of coffee. The events of the night before replayed in flashes. Leon's voice, the darkness, Gregory's bloodied lip, the screech of tires on wet pavement. But now there was light. Gregory entered the room, his shirt wrinkled, a fresh bandage just above his brow. He paused in the doorway, watching her in the morning light. "How'd you sleep?" he asked softly. Maya gave a small, wry smile. "You mean, did I sleep?" He chuckled, walked over and gently kissed her temple. "I know. Me neither." They sat together at the kitchen table, sipping coffee while the house stirred above them. Sophia would be awake soon. The staff would return, life would resume, but everything had changed. Gregory set down his mug. "The police have Leon in custody. Mark said they're stacking the charges, breaking and entering, assault, intimidation, prior threats, and there's evidence linking him to the messages." Maya nodded. "He won't come back." "No," Gregory said firmly, "he won't." A silence fell between them, not awkward but reflective. Maya stared at the sunlight streaming across the marble countertop. "When I first came here," she said, "I told myself it was temporary, a job, a safe place to start over. And now," Gregory asked, she looked at him. "Now, I wonder if this place saved me more than I saved Sophia." Gregory reached across the table, taking her hand. "You didn't just save her. You gave her something she hadn't had since Maria Joy. Security. Love." Maya swallowed the lump in her throat. "You think people will understand after everything that's happened?" "Some will," Gregory said. "Some won't. But it's not their understanding we need. It's our truth." They were interrupted by the soft patter of feet on the staircase. Sophia, dressed in her pink pajamas, bunny clutched in one hand, padded into the room. Her eyes lit up when she saw them. "Maya, Daddy?" Mia rose, scooping her into her arms. Sophia tucked her head into Mia's neck with the comfort of a child who knows exactly where she belongs. "I had a dream," Sophia mumbled sleepily. "Yeah," Maya asked, brushing her hair back. "What was it about?" "I dreamed we were all flying," she said. "You, me, Daddy, up high. We didn't fall." Gregory smiled gently. "Sounds like a good dream." Sophia nodded. "Can we have pancakes now?" Maya laughed softly. "Yes, sweetheart. Pancakes sound perfect." As the three of them moved to the stove, the house no longer felt like marble and glass. It felt like something warmer lived in, stitched together with shared survival. Later that afternoon, Maya took a walk through the garden alone. The tulips Sophia had helped plant were beginning to sprout. Just small green shoots pushing through the soil, a symbol of life returning. Slowly but surely, she sat on the bench beneath the weeping willow, the same place she had once considered walking away. Now it felt like hers as much as it did the Hartmans. Gregory joined her after a while, 2 glasses of iced tea in hand. He handed one to her and sat beside her in the dappled shade. "I spoke to the board today," he said. Maya turned to him, eyebrows raised. "They've seen the headlines. Most were supportive. A few had concerns. Public image, media noise, all the usual." "And you?" she asked. "I told them this family comes before press, that my daughter's well-being comes before speculation, and that Zoe Carter is staying." She looked at him, touched. He continued, "I also told them I'd be stepping back from the daily operations, handing more control to the managing partners. I want to be home more with Sophia, with you." Mia's voice was quiet. "Are you sure?" He smiled. "I've never been more sure of anything." They sat there sipping tea in the soft light, letting the breeze settle between them. As the sun dipped low and the shadows lengthened, Sophia came running across the lawn, laughter in her wake. "Come see," she shouted. "The tulips are waking up." Gregory and Maya followed her hand in hand. The three of them knelt at the garden bed, fingers brushing the young stems. Life rising again. That evening, as twilight painted the estate in hues of lavender and gold, Mia stood at the window watching Gregory tuck Sophia into bed. She heard the sound of giggles, of a story being read, of safety. She had not planned this life, but it had found her, chosen her. Downstairs, Gregory set the final touches on the last page of his memoir. He added a final line, then paused, reading it aloud. "She didn't come into our lives quietly. She arrived like morning still, radiant and impossible to ignore. And in her presence, the darkness forgot how to speak." He closed the laptop and exhaled. Tomorrow, he'd send the manuscript to his publisher. Tonight, he would hold close what mattered. Outside, the garden bloomed quietly under the stars. And for the first time in a long time, the Hartman house slept in peace. It started with a phone call. "Gregory, it's Dana Brooks from Morning View. I know this is short notice, but we'd love to have you on the show. We want to talk about the memoir, the statement you made about Maya, and if you're willing, your journey as a father." Gregory sat back in his office chair, glancing at the framed photo of Sophia and Maya on his desk. He already knew his answer. "I'll do it," he said, "but only if Mia's comfortable with it." When he brought it up to her later that evening, Maya's initial response was instinctive. "Absolutely not." "Huh?" Gregory nodded, respecting the wall she just raised. "I understand. I won't do it if it puts you in a bad place." Maya looked away, her fingers nervously tapping the rim of her teacup. "It's not that I don't want people to hear the truth. She exhaled. "I've lived too long in the shadows to believe they disappear just because someone flips on a spotlight." Gregory reached across the table. "Then we do it on our terms. You don't have to be on camera. You don't have to share anything you don't want to. But if there's a chance to tell the story right for Sophia's sake, for ours, I think we should take it." She was quiet for a long time. Then slowly, she nodded. "Okay, but promise me it won't become a circus." "It won't," he said. "Well, lead with heart." That's all we ever needed. 2 days later, the Morning View crew arrived at the estate. They set up in the living room with soft lights and plush chairs, arranged to feel like a conversation rather than an interrogation. Dana Brooks herself greeted Gregory warmly. And when she met Maya, she offered nothing but respect. "You're safe here," Dana said quietly. "We're not here to sensationalize anything. We're here to listen." Maya didn't appear on camera, but she sat just offset watching. Gregory took his seat under the soft glow, visibly calm but inwardly electric with emotion. The cameras rolled. "Gregory," Dana began, "your memoir, The Quiet Fire, is deeply personal. You talk about grief, fatherhood, and finding love again in the most unexpected of places. Why share this now?" Gregory paused before answering. "Because silence has a cost. After Maria passed, I shut myself off. I thought I was protecting Sophia, but I was just avoiding life. Mia changed that. She showed us what it means to feel again." Dana leaned in. "There's been a lot of media attention around your relationship with Maya. Some supportive, others critical. How have you both navigated that pressure?" Gregory didn't flinch. "With truth, with boundaries. Maya is not a headline. She's a human being, a woman of strength, resilience, and grace. And most importantly, she is the person my daughter runs to when she's scared. That's not media strategy. That's love." Dana nodded, visibly moved. "And Sophia, how has she been through all this?" A smile tugged at Gregory's lips. "She's the light of our lives. The other night during a blackout, Maya held her in the dark, and I remember thinking, this is what home looks like. Not a house, not a name, just two people holding on to each other." The interview lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, the crew packed up quietly, respectful of the vulnerability they had just witnessed. Dana shook Gregory's hand. "Thank you for trusting us. I think people are going to hear your heart." That evening, they watched the edited segment together. Sophia sat between them, munching on popcorn. When the screen flashed a photo of Maya holding her in the garden, Sophia clapped and shouted, "That's my Maya!" Maya laughed, pulling the girl close. "Yes, baby, that's us." When the episode aired nationally the next morning, the response was swift and unexpected. Messages poured in. Letters from single parents, from people who had lost spouses, from survivors of domestic violence and racial bias. Strangers wrote of how Gregory's words had softened something inside them, how Maya's quiet strength had made them feel seen. One letter stood out. It was from an elderly woman in Nebraska. She wrote, "I'm 72 years old. I lived through desegregation. I lost my husband in the Vietnam War and I raised 4 children on my own. Watching you two, I saw something familiar. The ache of loss, the miracle of second chances. Thank you for showing the world that healing doesn't always come wrapped in perfection. It comes wrapped in grace." Maya wept when she read it. Gregory held her, forehead pressed to hers. "This is why we did it." But not everyone was supportive. Board members voiced quiet concerns. Social media trolls resurfaced. One headline read, "Billionaire goes soft. Is Jonathan Greer too emotionally involved to lead?" Gregory dismissed the noise. "Let them talk," he told Mark. "Let them try to understand the world without compassion. We're building something they can't touch. In the days that followed, Maya received a formal invitation to speak at a women's empowerment event hosted by a local nonprofit. The letter was warm, handwritten. "We know you don't seek the spotlight," it said, "but we believe your story can light the way for someone else who's still walking through their dark." At first, Maya hesitated. Then one night after Sophia had gone to bed, she turned to Gregory and said, "I think I want to go." He smiled. "Then I'll be there in the front row." As she prepared for the event, Maya felt something shift inside her. No longer a woman hiding from her past or shielding herself from judgment. She was stepping forward. Not for glory, not for praise, but because someone somewhere needed to know that healing was possible. And Zoe Carter had become living proof. Maya stood backstage, fingers curled tightly around the folded speech in her hand. The auditorium was fuller than she expected. Nearly 300 women of all ages and backgrounds filling the red velvet seats. Soft music played overhead, and warm stage lights cast golden arcs across the floor. She could hear quiet murmurs beyond the curtain, laughter and rustling paper programs. The event director smiled gently as she passed by. "You'll do great," she said. "Just speak your truth, though." Maya nodded, heart thumping. Her heels clicked softly against the polished floor as she paced, mentally rehearsing. She had never spoken to a crowd before, never stood up and declared herself as anything other than a survivor. Gregory had insisted on sitting in the front row, right next to Sophia, who wore a lavender dress and a sparkly headband, legs dangling from the folding seat. As Maya peeked through the curtain, Sophia caught her gaze and grinned, waving wildly. Gregory gave her a small thumbs up. A voice crackled through the microphone. "Our next speaker is someone whose story has moved many of us quietly, powerfully, and with remarkable grace. Please welcome Zoe Carter." The applause started as she walked out, gentle, then rising as she stepped into the light. Her knees nearly buckled, but she kept her eyes forward, shoulders lifted. She stood at the podium, placed her notes down, and took a breath. "Good evening," she began, her voice soft but clear. "If someone had told me a year ago I'd be standing on this stage, I would have laughed. I didn't believe I had anything to say, nothing the world wanted to hear." Anyway, she paused, scanning the crowd. But then something happened. I was given a job, not glamorous, not public, just a job, watching a little girl, protecting her, loving her. And that child reminded me that silence is not safety, that hiding is not healing. A few heads nodded. A woman in the third row dabbed her eye. "I came from struggle. I came from fear. I changed my name to escape a shadow that had followed me for years. And I almost let that fear define the rest of my life." She took a step forward, no longer gripping the podium. "But what I've learned, what I am still learning, is that courage doesn't always look like standing on a battlefield. Sometimes it looks like showing up at a breakfast table. Sometimes it looks like holding a child in the dark. Sometimes it's standing on a stage like this, heart pounding, knees shaking, but knowing you have something worth saying." The room was still attentive, moved. Maya pressed forward. "We talk a lot about justice, about fairness, but I've come to believe justice isn't just what happens in a courtroom. It's what happens when a woman stands up and says, 'This is who I am. You don't get to erase me.'" Applause rippled again. Gentle and affirming, she smiled, just a little. "Today, I am a mother. Not by birth, but by choice. I am a partner, not because someone gave me permission, but because we chose each other, and I am no longer afraid of being seen." With that, she stepped back. The applause swelled, then rose to its feet. As she returned backstage, her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't pride that overwhelmed her. It was release. The weight of years lifted, the echoes of doubt silenced. Gregory met her at the side exit, eyes full of pride. Sophia broke away from him and flung her arms around Mia's waist. "You were so good," she squealed. Mia laughed, blinking back tears. "You think so?" Sophia nodded. "You talked like a superhero." Gregory smiled, pulling them both into an embrace. "You were brilliant." That night, as they returned to the estate, the house felt different, warmer, more open. Maya sat by the fireplace wrapped in a blanket, tea in hand, while Gregory reviewed the latest chapter of his book. Sophia lay on the rug nearby, coloring with quiet concentration. "Do you think it'll last?" Maya asked suddenly, her voice breaking the calm. Gregory looked up. "The peace?" She nodded. He set down the pages. "I think peace isn't something that lasts. It's something we choose every day, even when it's hard. Maya smiled faintly. I chose it today. He moved to sit beside her. And tomorrow I'll choose it again with you. Later, as Maya tucked Sophia into bed, the little girl reached up and cupped Mia's face with her small hands. You're my real mommy now, right? Mia's breath caught. Yes, baby, she whispered. I always have been. Outside, the moon hung low and silver, casting soft light over the sleeping garden. Inside, 3 hearts beat steady together. And for the first time, Mia didn't feel like a guest in her life. She felt like she belonged. The morning after Maya's speech was calm in the Hartman household. Yet underneath the quiet surface, something had shifted. The sun streamed through the tall bay windows, spilling golden warmth over the breakfast table, where Gregory read the newspaper. Sophia munched on strawberries and Mia brewed coffee, humming a soft melody that had taken residence in her mind since the night before. It was the first time in years that Maya had woken up without the undercurrent of fear. She had stood in front of strangers and declared her story. And instead of rejection, she had been met with applause, not for being flawless, but for being real. Sophia was giggling about the way her toast looked like a duck when Mark entered the room, clearing his throat with a gravity that instantly shifted the atmosphere. There's someone at the gate, he said. A woman says her name is Tasha Williams. Maya froze. The mug in her hand stopped mid-pour. She turned slowly to face Mark. Tasha, she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Gregory stood. Who is she? My sister, Maya said, voice barely audible. We haven't spoken in almost 9 years. Mark added, she's not being aggressive, says she just wants to talk alone if possible. Maya's hands trembled as she wiped them on a dish towel. Let her in, but keep an eye. Gregory touched her arm gently. You don't have to do this. I do, she said. For me, for closure. Outside, Tasha stood beside the fountain in the circular drive, wearing jeans and a simple coat, her hair in a short natural cut. Her face was tired, older than Maya remembered, but her eyes still held that familiar flicker of fire. Maya approached slowly. Tasha turned, eyes already shimmering. Hey. Jesus, they stared at each other for a long moment before Tasha stepped forward and pulled Maya into a tight, tentative hug. Maya hesitated, then returned it. I saw you on television, Tasha said, voice thick. Didn't even recognize you at first, but then I did, and I had to come. Maya nodded, unsure of what to say. Tasha exhaled shakily. I owe you an apology, a big one. Maya's throat tightened. I blamed you for walking away, Tasha continued. I didn't know what you were carrying. I didn't know what Leon had done to you. I only saw you disappear and thought you abandoned us. I had to survive, Maya said softly, and I didn't think anyone would come with me. Tasha nodded slowly. I get it now. Took me too long, but I get it. They sat together on the garden bench under the weeping willow, the same place Maya had sat the day she almost ran. Now it had become a place of return. Tasha looked around the estate. You live here? Maya gave a small smile. I do. And the girl Sophia, she's my daughter now. A flicker of emotion crossed Tasha's face. I always knew you'd be a mother one day. You had that kind of love in you, even when we were little. They talked for nearly an hour about their childhood, about their mother, about the chaos that had torn their family apart. There were tears, laughter, silence, healing. Eventually, Tasha stood. I won't stay long. I just needed you to know I'm proud of you and I'm sorry. Oh, Maya stood too, wiping her eyes. Thank you for coming. Before she left, Tasha reached into her pocket and pulled out a small faded photograph of 2 little girls in matching yellow dresses, smiling at the camera, arms slung around each other. I kept this, she said. Even when I was angry, I never stopped being your sister. Maya took the photo with trembling fingers, her eyes flooding with tears. That night, Gregory found her sitting by the fireplace, staring at the photo. She showed up, he said gently. Maya nodded, and she said she forgave me, but more importantly, she gave me the chance to forgive myself. Gregory sat beside her. That's a rare kind of grace. She brought back a piece of me I thought I'd buried, Maya whispered. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Then maybe it's time we start building something new. They sat in comfortable silence, the fire crackling low. From the hallway, Sophia called out, Maya, can you come read me the bunny book? Maya stood smiling. Be right there, baby. Gregory watched her walk away, strength in every step. And he knew this woman, this incredible woman, had not just found her way back to the world. She was lighting the path for others. The boardroom at Whitman Enterprises towered high above downtown Los Angeles, its glass walls offering a sweeping view of the city below. Inside, the atmosphere was cool and charged, the kind of hush that falls over a room right before something breaks. 11 members of the executive board sat around the sleek mahogany table, their expressions varying from composed concern to quiet disapproval. Jonathan Greer stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped loosely in front of him, back straight, voice calm. "I appreciate everyone being here," he began. "I called this special meeting to address the growing tension surrounding the recent media attention and the public reaction to my family's story." Murmurs swept the room, but no one interrupted. They all knew what was coming. "We've seen unprecedented engagement since the interview aired," Gregory continued. "Our charitable initiatives have received more support. Our public image overall has grown stronger, but there are concerns. Some of you have expressed worry that my personal choices may compromise the brand, that my relationship with Zoe Carter might distract from our mission." He paused, letting the weight of the statement settle. At the far end of the table, Philip Albright, one of the oldest board members, cleared his throat. "Gregory, no one here questions your leadership, but optics matter. This company is more than just a family name. It's a legacy. When your private life becomes headline fodder, it affects investor confidence." Gregory nodded respectfully. "Understood, but let me be clear. Maya is not a liability. She is a woman of extraordinary integrity, and the fact that her story resonates with so many is not a distraction. It's an asset. What we stand for publicly and privately must align, or we are nothing but a hollow brand." Linda Cho, a sharp-eyed executive in her 50s, leaned forward. "Some of our donors have voiced concern quietly. They're old guard, Gregory. They don't understand this kind of narrative." "Then maybe it's time they start trying to understand," Gregory replied, his voice cool but unwavering, "because this is the direction we're moving in. Inclusive, transparent, human." The room was still. Then Albright spoke again, slower this time. "Are you suggesting that the company should actively align itself with your personal life?" "I'm suggesting," Gregory said, "that a company bearing my name should reflect my values, and I won't compartmentalize my life for the comfort of people who fear change." At that, he slid a folder across the table. "In here, you'll find documentation transferring oversight of day-to-day operations to our Chief Operations Officer. I will step back from active management to focus on family and philanthropy." Gasps. A few startled glances. "I'm not resigning. I'm redirecting. The company will remain in my name, but its leadership must evolve. And if any board member feels unaligned with this direction, you are free to step down." No one moved. Gregory's gaze swept the room. "Let me remind you, we are not here simply to grow numbers. We are here to grow impact. My story, Maya's story, Sophia's story, these are not burdens. They are beacons." With that, he sat down, calm and sure. The board remained quiet, but beneath the surface, something had shifted. Outside in the lobby, Maya sat with Sophia in her lap, reading a picture book. She had dressed simply, a navy blouse, jeans, soft makeup, but she carried herself with quiet elegance. People passed by, some nodding politely, others stealing glances, not with judgment, but curiosity. When Gregory emerged from the meeting, he walked straight to them. "Well?" Maya asked, her voice low. "They heard me," he said. "And more importantly, they stayed." Maya smiled, relief softening her shoulders. "I told them, this is our story now, and they can either grow with us or move aside." He took her hand, and Sophia reached for his other, forced giggling. Together they walked out of the building, not as a controversy, not as a scandal, but as a statement, a family unshaken. That evening, as twilight fell across the city, Maya received a message from one of the board members, a woman named Evelyn James. "I watched you speak at the empowerment event. I cried. Thank you for showing the world what strength looks like." Maya stared at the message, stunned. Gregory, sitting beside her on the patio, caught the look on her face. "What is it?" She showed him the message. He smiled, one heart at a time. Later that night, after Sophia had gone to sleep and the house had quieted, Maya stepped out into the garden. The tulips were blooming in full now, their colors rich under the moonlight. She knelt and touched one of the petals, whispering a quiet thank you to the soil, the stars, and the journey that had brought her here. In the distance, the wind stirred the leaves. Inside, Gregory watched her through the window, admiration in his eyes. She was no longer surviving, she was blooming. It was a cool spring morning when Maya returned to the community center on the south side of Los Angeles, the same building she had once walked past daily without daring to enter. It had been recently renovated, now housing classrooms, counseling offices, and a bright open hall where young women gathered twice a week for workshops. Maya had been invited as a speaker, but this time not to talk about trauma. This time, she was there to talk about possibility. As she walked through the glass doors, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor, her eyes scanned the walls lined with photos of women, survivors, entrepreneurs, mothers, students, all part of a quiet revolution of healing. She felt the weight of what this day meant, not just for the women waiting inside, but for herself. In the hallway, she passed a bulletin board with a quote pinned at the center. "The place where you once felt invisible can become the place where you shine the brightest." She smiled. Inside the main room, about 50 women sat in folding chairs, chatting, some nursing babies, others taking notes. There was no stage, just a circle of chairs, and in the middle, a single armchair with a microphone resting on the seat. Maya walked in and the room slowly hushed. She didn't wait for a formal introduction. "I don't have a speech today," she said, her voice calm and confident, "because I think you all know what it feels like to be talked at. I'd rather talk with you." She sat down, microphone in hand. "My name is Zoe Carter. Some of you know me from recent headlines. Some might know me from before in a different life. But what matters is this. I know what it means to start over. I know what it feels like to hide your strength because the world calls it too loud." Heads nodded. A woman in the front row murmured, Maya continued, "There was a time I thought survival was enough. I was wrong. Healing is not about hiding. It's about returning to yourself and then choosing to stay." The conversation unfolded naturally. Women shared stories of leaving abusive relationships, of rebuilding their lives after incarceration, of navigating motherhood while carrying invisible wounds. And Maya listened. She didn't come to teach. She came to remind them that they were not alone. At one point, a young girl barely 20 raised her hand. "How do you forgive yourself for what you let happen to you?" The room fell silent. Maya looked her in the eyes. "By realizing that what happened to you is not what you let happen. It's what you survived, and survival doesn't require your apology. It deserves your honor." Tears welled in the girl's eyes. Maya leaned forward and added, "Start there with honoring yourself. Every morning, that's how you forgive." The session ended with a standing ovation, not out of duty, but genuine respect. As the women filed out, many stopped to hug her, thank her, or simply whisper that they now saw themselves a little more clearly. When Maya stepped outside into the warm sunlight, Gregory was waiting by the car, holding Sophia in his arms. "How was it?" he asked. She smiled as she kissed Sophia's forehead. "It felt like closing a door I didn't realize had been left open." Gregory opened the car door for her. "Then maybe it's time we build something new for others like you." She looked at him. "A foundation?" He nodded. "We already have the resources, the reach. Let's use it." That night, they sat by the fire with a notebook between them, brainstorming names, missions, and programs. They decided on something simple, powerful, and true to Maya's journey: the Still Blooming Foundation. Its mission was to support women in transition, those coming out of shelters, abusive relationships, and the justice system, offering not just shelter, but mentorship, counseling, and opportunities. Months passed quickly. The foundation launched with quiet strength. News outlets covered it with curiosity. But more important than headlines were the letters that began to arrive. Letters from women who had heard Maya's words and taken their first steps toward change. Maya became a quiet leader, not a celebrity, not a symbol, but a steady hand, a warm voice, a woman whose story offered permission for others to tell their own. One crisp autumn morning, under a canopy of golden leaves, Gregory led Maya into the garden, where a small group waited, just Sophia, Mark, and a handful of close friends. No cameras, no spotlight, just stillness and intention. "I thought you hated surprises," Maya whispered, her eyes catching on the delicate arbor, hand-built by Gregory in the weeks before. He smiled gently. "This isn't a wedding," he said. It's a beginning, a promise. There were no flower girls, no sweeping music, just two people standing in the quiet saying what mattered most. I vow to protect your peace, Gregory told her, his voice rough with emotion. To make room for your voice, even when it trembles, especially then. Maya met his eyes without hesitation. And I vow to build something real, with you, with her. Something that lasts because we chose it. Not because we had to, but because we believed. Sophia clapped the moment they kissed, her little hands smacking together like the sound of hope itself. The wind caught the edge of Maya's veil and carried it like a whisper across the garden. This wasn't the fairy tale Maya once imagined. It was something better. Imperfect, grounded, real. That night, as moonlight spilled across their bedroom floor, Maya opened the drawer by her bed and pulled out the photo Tasha had given her. The two girls in yellow dresses, still holding hands across time. She slid it into a frame and set it on her nightstand. A quiet reminder. Roots matter. But what you plant for yourself, that's where the real bloom begins. And she was still blooming.